Hello, everyone. Welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure. All Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure. Trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And I hope everyone had a great weekend, great holiday weekend. Welcome back. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. That's a great place to post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation, of the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @DougPless. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. That certainly applies to large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index, SPY is the ETF version of that index, and the ES futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they'll hedge their delta exposure with ES futures. And for the NASDAQ 100, NDX is the underlying index, QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index, and the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX, NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. And this is the reason these levels, SPX and SPY for ES. So when I talk about ES today, I will be focusing mainly on SPX and SPY levels. And for NQ, I will be focusing on NDX and QQQ levels. Hello, Sheena. Welcome. Glad you're here. And hello, Stephen. Welcome. Glad you're here as well. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning. I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day as well as their directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. Setups in that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options, depending on the asset as well as the way you would like to trade. And I will be going through both of these steps today, my planning process and then the execution process. Questions and comments are welcome. Hello, Stephen. Welcome. Glad you're here as well. Questions and comments are welcome. I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Here's my agenda for today, Monday, April 21st. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, events. I need to change that to add earnings as well. Earnings are companies are starting to report earnings. And we'll go over to some of that today. Then I'll go over my positional analysis from earlier today. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. And then I'll take a look at the live market. And when I got to the live market, if anyone has stocks or anything else they want me to take a look at, please let me know. I'll be glad to do that. All right, let's get started with news items for the week. And there are some, I guess, really minor, maybe medium to slightly high impact data releases this week. I think the market, other than the constant stream of news about tariffs, maybe focus more on earnings. So let's take a look at that. Let's, first of all, data releases for the week. Data really doesn't start until Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time. S&P Global Services and Manufacturing PMI data comes out. 10 a.m. new home sales. So that's on Wednesday. And Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, durable goods orders come out. And then at 10 a.m., existing home sales. Then finally on Friday, 10 a.m., consumer sentiment. All right, let's focus on earnings. This is the earnings chart that is on the Spotgamma dashboard home screen. I want to point out a couple of stocks. I mainly follow large cap tech stocks. And so let me point out those. First of all, Tesla reports earnings. And that's on Tuesday after the market closes. And then on Thursday after the market closes, Google reports earnings. And let's check the current expected moves. For Tesla, the expected move is 8.83%, and they report earnings 10 minutes after the close on Tuesday. Then for Google, expected move right around 5.7%, and that's right after the close. Looks like either at the close or 5 minutes after the close for Google. All right, so those are the earnings reports that I'm following for the week. And of course, there are many other companies reporting earnings. All right, so that is the data and earnings for the week. All right, let's move on to positional analysis. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the ES Futures and Bookmap. Steady downtrend all day beginning at the cash open. Right here, cash open, steady downtrend. Looks like that continues with levels of consolidation. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. Very interesting interaction with the orders in the order book today. And I'll darken up the heat map and we can see the history of limit orders in the order book in just a few minutes. All right, so this is the ES Futures and Bookmap. Note that, and it's Monday. This is the lower daily expected move for ES. So ES broke down below its lower daily expected move just about maybe 20 minutes after the cash open, and also broke down below its lower weekly expected move. So ES is trading down below its lower weekly expected move on Monday. All right, let's take a look at the underlying index charts first. Let's go to SPX, the underlying index. This is a 1 year, 1 day chart in Thinkorswim. And this downtrend that began really at February expiration continues. And let's just take a quick look at potential lows. So remember, this is the low for SPX during the cash open. And that was on Monday, April 7th. And remember, before the open on Sunday, April 6th, SPX traded down to 4,800. At least theoretically, that's what the ES chart showed with the current level of SPX. So 4,800 potential low coming up. More about that in a few minutes. All right, so let's take a look now at a little bit shorter time frame. Let's go to a 30-day 1-hour chart. There's that 48.35 low. And again, the overnight low was 4,800. And it looks like this is the huge move up after the temporary pause of reciprocal tariffs was announced. And now it looks like SPX has retraced over 50% of that move, and again, heading continues to head down. All right, let's take a look at the levels on this chart. So I showed the expected moves for ES in the Bookmap chart. Let's take a look at the expected moves for SPX. Again, the underlying index. Dash purple lines showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. These are based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from last Thursday, since Friday was a holiday. And again, SPX trading down below the lower weekly expected move, also trading down below the lower daily expected move, shown with the dash blue lines. Again, that's also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX, again, from last Thursday. The daily expected move, of course, changes every day, and the weekly expected move remains in place for the entire week. All right, so again, bearish Monday. And it didn't take long for SPX to get down below its lower weekly expected move. All right, let's take a look at the Spotgamma levels on this chart. And I'm going to start with the key daily levels. 5,000 is the absolute gamma strike. That's the strike with the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. That's where most of the gamma-weighted open interest is concentrated and could be a first target for a move down. More about that potential target for a move down, 4,600 to 4,800. That is what Spotgamma is calling for. We'll take again a closer look at that in just a few minutes. All right, so that is the absolute gamma strike. Next level up is the put wall. That's at 5,200. That is Spotgamma's. That is the level with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And again, SPX trading below the put wall. Next level up is the volatility trigger. That's at 5720. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to enhance or increase volatility. And that is definitely the case today. SPX trading in a firmly negative gamma environment, well below its volatility trigger. Again, market makers trading with price in this negative gamma environment. And then finally, the call wall is at 6,000. That's a strike with the largest net positive gamma, and that can be expected to act as resistance. And of course, that is well out of play. All right, shifts in levels. For SPX, the volatility trigger did shift lower, and for SPY, the volatility trigger also shifted lower, and the put wall shifted lower. All right, so bearish shifts lower in the SPX and SPY. All right, let's wrap up our view of SPX with a 1-minute chart. Very steady downtrend. So this is last week, Wednesday and Thursday. Trend break Thursday afternoon. And now this downtrend that really began Thursday afternoon continues. Oops, sorry about that. Not sure that's something with my pen tool, sorry. All right, back. Sorry about that. I must have hit the wrong button on my pen tool. Again, apologies. All right, so that's SPX. Now let's go to ES. So in ES, I have, again, key levels for ES. There's the lower daily, weekly expected move. Also have SPX levels on this chart. There's the 5,200 put wall. That's for SPX. Next level down, 5,100. So that would be the next target. We'll take a closer look in just a couple of minutes. All right, I also have SPY levels on this chart. And right now, I don't see any SPY gamma levels in play. All right, note there is a difference in price between ES and SPX. And right now, it is right around 27 points. So ES minus SPX equal 27. So I'm showing 5,100, SPX 5,100 at ES 5,127. And I do post those index relationships that I'm using every day in Discord. All right, that is the S&P 500. Let's take a look at NASDAQ. Similar chart, very steady downtrend. And we'll take a look at setups in just a few minutes. All right, let's take a quick look at the underlying index charts. Let's go to QQQ. Levels in play. 440 up above. Acted as resistance before the cash open. That's the gray shaded area. That's a large gamma 3 level. Down below at 430, there's a large gamma 4 level. Then 420 is the put wall. So it looks like this level here. And there is a level at 430 and then a combo level just below that. Acted as support earlier. Then price could not even make it back up to that level for resistance. All right, so that's QQQ. Let's take a look at NDX. Here's the put wall. So NDX trading well below its put wall at 18,000. Then there were two levels below that. This is one combo level. So that lines up with the QQQ combo level, acting as support, then resistance. All right, so that's QQQ, NDX. And again, just like the ES, I have the NDX and QQQ levels on my NQ chart. There's that 18,000 put wall, and then there's that QQQ 430 level. Downtrend continues. We'll talk about setups in a few minutes. All right, shifts and levels for NASDAQ. For NDX, volatility trigger call wall shifted lower. Absolute gamma strike did shift higher. And for QQQ, the put wall and call wall shifted lower. So overall, for both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, bearish shifts lower in key levels. All right, let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at gamma. Again, we're sorry about that. Having trouble controlling my mouse today. All right, so let's take a look at gamma. Take a look at market maker's position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day. Then we'll take a real-time look at gamma. So this is market maker's position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day for the S&P 500, NASDAQ, Russell 2000. Remember, there was an expiration on Thursday, put-dominated expiration. So some of that negative gamma went away. but it's still negative. You can see all those numbers are negative, indicating traders are long puts, market makers are short puts, hence the negative gamma. They have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. All right, let's take a look at the trace tool. This is available to Spotgamma subscribers. This will give us a better view of gamma in real time. Red shading indicates negative gamma, looking for rapid price movement in the negative gamma zones, and then blue is positive gamma. So note there's a pocket of positive gamma centered around 50-50. So that's down below. So it looks like now SPX has made it down to the 5100 level. And note this is negative gamma at 5095. So negative gamma 5095 and positive gamma at 50-50. So potential support for today at 50-50. And note stability index. I've seen it lower. I've seen it as low as 0 or 1%, but 9%, still pretty low. So looking for higher volatility, rapid movement. All right, so my thesis for the day was I was looking for high volatility and bearish directional bias. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at some setups now, and then we'll get through that and then get to the live market. This is the S&P 500 Hero tool. So as always, I'm going to start with the S&P 500 and start by taking a look at what options traders have been doing today. And again, this is the Hero indicator. It's available to Spotgamma subscribers. And what this chart is showing, this is the index signal. It's showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index components. That's SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures. A falling Hero signal indicates traders are taking negative delta positions. They're buying puts and or selling calls. And this has been bearish from the open. So you can see this is a bearish opening drive from the open. And the way to play this is to short these peaks. Especially in this downtrend, short these peaks. Very good entry points for short. Well, let's zoom in on this just a little bit. So I've marked some entry points from earlier today at these peaks. So here's one at 950, another one at 1040. So 950, 1040, another one at 1240. All right, so let's go to the chart. 940, 1040, and 1240. And there you go. Entry points for shorts. 940, 1040, 1240. Or actually 950, 1040, 1240. Let's take a look at order flow. Here you can see that initially there were a lot of aggressive sellers. That's shown by the falling cumulative volume delta, the magenta line. All the magenta volume dots, price reverse lower, right around SPY 520 and the ES lower daily expected move. Here's your next short entry. And again, 1240, buyers are exhausted, shown by the smaller green volume dots. Aggressive sellers come in, shown by the magenta volume dots. Price moves lower. And this move lower has been fueled by sell stop orders. That's shown by the falling yellow line. And this is typical behavior of large traders. With iceberg orders, they use to hide their size. Large traders have been fading this move, shown by the rising light blue line. And then kind of a mixed picture for cumulative volume delta. Negative for the day, but right now it looks like some aggressive buyers are coming in. You can see some of the green volume dots. But the hero signal continues to move lower. Let's go back to the hero signal. So we took a look at the index signal, and it's been bearish all day. Total net negative notional value right about 3.75 billion. Let's take a look at puts and calls, see what traders have been doing. Orange line shows calls. Orange line shows calls. Traders are selling calls. That's shown by the falling orange line. Blue line shows puts. The directional lines are in terms of delta, options delta. So traders are buying puts. That's shown by the falling blue line. All right, so that is the index signal. Let's take a look at the equity signal. What this is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. Also bearish for the day, trending down all day. Let's zoom in a bit. And again, peak patterns. There's a peak pattern at 935. Another peak pattern. This is a large block order, and we can track that down. That was in some of the Mag 7 stocks. And then another sell signal rollover of the hero signal peak pattern at 950. That lines up with the index signal. And Suresh, welcome, glad you're here, asked, how would you interpret the call spike on hero at 948? So I assume you're talking about the S&P 500 index. Let's go to puts and calls. And I interpret that as a sell signal. That's a very reliable bearish reversal pattern. Stephen King, welcome, glad you're here, asked, what are the two lines? What's the white line? All right, so let's go back. Let's take a look at just a two-line chart. So the white line is price for SPX, and the kind of purple and red line, if we zoom in on that, we can see that as in, those are candlesticks. If we zoom in close enough, you can see those are candlesticks. So the white line is price for SPX, and the purple and red candlesticks are the hero signal. So again, the hero signal is showing hedging impact of options in real time. And this index signal is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures. So, Stephen, I hope that answers your question. And Sheena asked, at what point do you confirm that a peak is a short and not a price reversal? Well, I would say, first of all, I guess the easy thing to say is, when it starts to roll over again. So when I'm trading, I'm looking at multiple screens. So I'm looking at hero on one screen, Bookmap on another screen, trading platform on another screen, and I'm confirming what I see on all screens. So let's go. Let's take a close look at this. And this is there's a call peak. One at 948, maybe one just after 950. In this case, pretty clear that the hero signal starts to reverse. So there's the call peak pattern in the S&P 500 index signal right around 950. So let's go to Bookmap. Let's zoom in. Let's take a look at that and take a look at the clues. So let's zoom in. All right, it's going to take a few seconds for me to zoom in on this. All right, so looking at right around 950 in ES, it looks like this is just a round number for SPY. 520 acted as resistance before. Looks like now it's acting as resistance again. Resistance. Clear those out. So it looks like buyers are exhausted. You can see the small green volume dots right at the top here. A little bit of a trend break, and price breaks lower. And that would be my entry point, that break lower right there. All right, Sheena and Suresh, hope that answers your question. So it's a matter of just interpreting. First of all, it's a downtrend. The trend is moving down. Peak pattern in the hero signal, and then confirming here with order flow. So let me know if there are any additional questions about that. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. And by the way, I thought Sheena, you're welcome. I thought the indexes, both the ES and the NQ, were by far the clearest trades today. All right, let's go take a look at NASDAQ. Let's see, go to the hero signals for NASDAQ. I'm going to shift back to the total signal, which is combining puts and calls. First of all, go to the index signal for NASDAQ, showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the NDX and QQQ. Note the 18,000 put wall. This is price for NDX acting as resistance, and that can certainly happen, and it did today. Put wall acting as resistance when price moves down below, and then test it from below. So there's a resistance level, peak patterns right after 940, 950, price moves lower. All right, let's zoom back out. So again, peak patterns are where we want to look for short entries. All right, let's go to NASDAQ. So earlier in the day, again, remember 940, 940, 950, 1040. There are those shorts just after the open with the 18,000 put wall acting as resistance. And again now, NQ is broken below the QQQ 430 level. All right, let's go back to Hero, take a look at the other signal that we can use for NASDAQ. That's the MAG7 signal, showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the stocks known as the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla. We'll take a look at some of those stocks in just a few minutes. And remember that block order in the S&P 500 equities, we see that same signal in MAG7. See that vertical line in the call signal. Some large institution buying calls, and so far they're not doing so well with those calls. So that is one or more of the MAG7 stocks. All right, so bearish, just like all the other index signals, S&P 500, index, equities, NASDAQ, and MAG7, all bearish today, continuing to trend lower. All right, any questions about the indexes? All right, let's take a look at some stocks. Then we'll get to the live market. And again, in my opinion, I thought the indexes were by far the easiest to trade today. So let's start with some stocks. And actually, let me point out one thing. One way to find stocks is to rank your stocks. This is my watch list. I've ranked it by hero signal here. I have not showed this in a while, but if you're looking for the weakest stock of the day, one way to start is by ranking your stocks with this hero signal. And you can see NVIDIA at the top of this list. And we'll certainly take a look at NVIDIA in a couple of minutes. So what this is showing very quickly is it's comparing the hero signal. We'll take a look at NVIDIA here, comparing the hero signal for the last 5 days. That's shown the color portion, and the last 30 days, that's shown by the entire length of the slider. And then the white dot is the current hero signal level. So you can see for NVIDIA, the hero signal is the weakest that it has been in the last 5 days and also in the last 30 days. So again, we'll take a look at NVIDIA in just a couple of minutes. I do want to start with Amazon. And a little bit choppy hero signal at the beginning of the day, but it did resolve lower for Amazon. Amazon was also in the news this morning with a downgrade, analyst downgrade. Probably didn't take that for Amazon to move lower, but that was the case. So a little bit of news. There was also news for NVIDIA. So let's go to Amazon. And a bearish move lower. Very steady downtrend. Multiple entry points for short pullbacks. As traders were taking negative delta options positions. And the call signal pretty choppy. So we can see some of that block order was, or these block orders have been in Amazon, call buyers. All right, so that's Amazon. Next stock I want to take a look at is Meta. Slow rise, he says, Amazon 165, put wall. Let's go back and check Amazon. No, there's put wall is not at 165 for Amazon. We can check. The put wall's up at 170. So for Amazon, the put wall up at 170. So Amazon opened up below its put wall and continues to trade lower, or actually chop around a bit. All right, next stock, Meta. Choppy signal. There's the evidence of the block order. So it looked like initially a bearish opening drive. That block order came in. Meta chopped around a little bit. And then the hero signal started to turn sharply lower, setting up a very nice short. Right there around 11:15. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. One thing I meant to show for Amazon. Let's zoom in on the signal. There was a nice divergent short. So let's stay here trading Amazon in the morning. And this is what you see. Amazon price moving up. Hero signal moving down. There's your divergent short right around 941. So that's the zoomed in view. You can see that a lot more clearly. All right, back to Meta. And one thing about this peak, you can see there's no follow through. So that's how I know that it is a reversal setup with no follow through. So if in a more bullish market, if you see this move up and then the smaller traders come in with their options orders, that would make this setup an institutional kickoff, where the large institution takes a positive delta position and then the smaller traders come in. That happened a little bit later, but that did not really move Meta up much. And then at 11:15, there was a break in the hero signal, setting up a nice short. So a short at 9:50 and then 11:15. So let's go to Bookmap. Go to Meta. So there's that initial setup. Pull back to around 490 with that peak, no follow through. Meta reverses. And then again, remember, some traders started taking positive delta positions, and then that broke lower about 11:15, broke that trend, uptrend. Let me clear that out. So Meta kept bumping up into resistance right around 486. Broke this downtrend. Did a final retest of 485 and then broke lower. So first entry, first short at that first peak, and then this trend break here as traders started taking negative delta positions again. So two short setups in Meta. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. Remember, it was at the top of the hero signal list, ranked from weakest to smallest. It was only behind a firm. So let's go take a look at the hero signal and note all the green volume dots. There are a lot of buyers in NVIDIA, but the options traders seem to be in control. So let's take a look at the hero signal for NVIDIA. Trending down all day. This is a bearish opening drive. Bearish opening drive, and then also bearish momentum and continuation when both the orange line and the blue line are moving in the same direction. So there's a little bit of a peak there. Another institutional call block order. That didn't last long, and a very quick reversal of that call peak, setting up a short right around 950 if you weren't already short from the bearish opening drive. So there's that short entry. Although all the green volume dots do make it a little bit more difficult to go long. And Sotorazzi says 95 big wall there on Bookmap for NVIDIA, definitely. And that was a price target for this move down. So what Sotorazzi is talking about is this. These are limit buy orders shown in the order book. And note there were some limit buy orders in the order book at 95 before the cash open. Then more came in after the cash open. And right now that looks like over a million shares, 1.1 million shares. That's a lot of shares, a lot of buy orders at NVIDIA. And this is absorption at that level. So it looks like some consumption of those orders, but not all. So that's absorption. Let's go back to Hero. Shift back to the total signal. All right, so now it looks like some traders may be starting to take positive delta positions as NVIDIA reverses off that 95 high liquidity level. Let's take a look at a couple of other stocks, and we'll get back to the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. More peak patterns here for Tesla. 935, 950. These peak patterns work very well for Tesla. So that was a very short opening drive, I guess, in this negative environment. And then the options traders took their foot off the S, and it looks like Tesla is consolidating just below 225. All right, so let's go take a look at Tesla. Remember, call peaks 935, 950. Those are your short entries. $935 lower high, $950 lower high. Just like NVIDIA, there are some aggressive buyers coming in, shown by rising cumulative volume delta, green volume dots. But options traders were in control in the morning. And there's that 225 level that I mentioned in Tesla. And Sotorazzi says SPX bounced at 5,100. Yeah, we'll take a look at that in just a second. One more stock, Robinhood. Here was the short in Robinhood this morning. This break of this wedge pattern right at VWAP. That's a light blue line. You can see the shift to magenta volume dots as aggressive sellers come in. Let's see what options traders are doing. Then we'll get back to the S&P 500. Let's go to Robinhood. And you can see there was a little bit of a lead in the hero signal here, starting to move lower. And that was before Robinhood broke below that that little bit of a trend there, broke down out of that wedge pattern. The hero signal was already trending lower, setting up a very nice short. And targets at the 440 key gamma strike and then the 39 hedge wall. So the 40 key gamma strike target has been achieved. Next target down is 39 hedge wall and high liquidity at both those levels. All right, let's go back to ES. Check that 5100 level. So far, acting as support, as Sotorazzi indicated. Let's just check the accuracy of that level. Let's go to our SPX chart. I'll zoom in on this. So we can see the low is at 5101. And remember, this level is close, but maybe not exact. That ES to SPX relationship does change during the day, but certainly close enough. All right, let's see what options traders are doing now. Let's go back to Hero, go to the S&P 500 index chart. Now the question is, will this continue, or will that be just another short entry? Pull back for a short entry. Let's check S&P equities. And S&P equities already turning over, moving down now. Let's check trace. So what this is showing is SPX may be finding some support at the top of this blue positive gamma zone. And by the way, this was for a bearish trade today, this was the longer term trend, somewhere in this positive gamma zone, downside target. All right, back to Bookmap. One thing that I mentioned earlier today was this liquidity in the heat map. Now that this algo appears, the algo that was really clouding up the view of the heat map for quite some time appears to be gone now, and the heat map now is much more useful, providing clear support and resistance levels. And I did mention some consolidation areas earlier today. So I'm scrolling back. So right here, you can see the liquidity right around ES 52056 acting as support. Then finally price breaks down below that level. Goes to the next consolidation. That's right around 5196, just above the SPY 515 level. And then did find support of that level. Moved up to the high liquidity right around SPY 517, ES 5215, then reverse lower, finding support at these levels of liquidity and then continuing to break lower. And Stephen says, I thought I noticed something different in the heat map. Yeah, much more useful now that that algo is gone. I guess the volatility was too high for the algo. So watching these support and the high liquidity levels provides a lot of additional information here in Bookmap, and helping to frame these little consolidation levels and also reversal levels. As well as the SPX and SPY levels. All right, let's go to real time now. All right, let's go check Hero now. All right, so remember the SB equity signal started to roll down. And SPX consolidating. I'm gonna actually, let's go to this Hero signal. And I'm going to shift over to the S&P 500 index signal so I don't have to keep jumping back between the two. Let me move this one over here. All right, so as Sotorazzi pointed out, there was a bounce off 5100. Should be right there. I think it may be a little bit lower because SPX did not quite touch 5100. That must be this line right here. 5100. Traders started taking positive delta positions, and now they have taken the foot off the gas. And let's go check the equity signal now. So the Hero signal for the index has flattened out. And for equities, it did move down, but now it's flattened out as well. Let's go back to Bookmap. All right, let's see where I may be going. All right, so cumulative volume delta has been rising. Oops. And you can see the mostly green volume dots, but sell stop orders continue to move lower. And now large traders are fading this move with iceberg orders that's shown by the following light blue line. So now the question is, will 5100 hold, or will go with the S&P 500 reverse lower and go down further into that positive gamma centered right around 50-50. Let's go back and check Hero. Equity signal starting to rise again. Let's go to the index signal, and also starting to rise. So at least in the shorter time frame here, the S&P 500 continues to move higher. And note, I am using a beta version. This is the staging area of staging website for Spotgamma, and it's showing these candlesticks for the Hero signal, which I think provides some great information. Like this in the subchart here, this large positive bar, positive candle. All right, back to Bookmap. Well, let's check equities. All right, so the S&P 500 again, 5,100 so, holding so far. And potential reversal level coming up at 510. Next one, that's at SPY 510. Next one at ES 5150. So if you're looking for a short, it's just a matter of waiting patiently, watching the hero signals on one screen and order flow on another screen. So right now, this move up continues. All right, last call for questions, comments. And Spikes asks, can one trade gold with Bookmap? Yes. So you can trade GLD. You would need DXFeed stocks data, or GC, the futures contract. And I believe you would need COMEX data for GC. So you can trade gold futures or GLD, or you can trade any number of the miner stocks as well, gold miner stocks. So yeah. Now we can take a look at GLD and Hero here. And I'm going to open up. Well, my time is up, so I'm going to just take a look at GLD. All right, so there you go. Yeah, you can trade. All right, Abu wants to show NASDAQ, so let's go. We'll take a look at the NASDAQ signal. Starting to move up, MAG 7 signal. Not so much. We'll end up by showing NQ. All right, so it looks like now S&P 500 may be reversing at that 5150 level. All right, so there's NQ. Also either pulling back or reversing lower at this cluster of levels up above. All right, so there you go, Abu. There's NQ. It did find support at NQ 17,700. ES. All right, so ES bumped into resistance at 5150. All right, everyone, my time is up. I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. Wednesday, remember PMI data at 9:45 a.m. New home sales 10. Tesla reports earnings on Tuesday after the market closes, and we will certainly talk about that on Wednesday. All right, everyone, have a great afternoon, and I will see you on Wednesday at 1:30. Thanks again. Bye.